You know how things online can just escalate incredibly quickly, right? One moment it's just some news, the next, boom, there's this whole swirl of reactions
Oh,
happen.
absolutely. It's like watching a feedback loop in real time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, well, sometimes it gets pretty wild.
It really does. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. You brought forward some really fascinating material showing how one particular online space is reacting to this legal situation involving Justin Baldoni and the company Jonesworks.
Yeah, it's like a window into how opinions are being formed almost moment by moment.
So it seems the source material focuses on a discussion among people following the allegations against Baldoni. And what really kicked things off for them was seeing what they're calling a review bomb aimed at Jonesworks.
Exactly that. A review bomb. They noticed this sudden, intense wave of negative reviews targeting the company. That's what sparked the conversation we're looking at.
Okay, let's unpack that, this review bomb. Yeah. What were people actually seeing? What did it look like to them?
Well, primarily, it was a really sharp uptick in negative reviews popping up for Jonesworks online, very suddenly.
Right. Any specific examples jump out?
Yeah, one person pointed out a review that seemed particularly strange. It mentioned Candace Owens, but then also Justin Bieber, spelled Bieber.
Bieber, not Baldoni. Huh.
Correct, Bieber. The misspelling alone made people wonder, is this genuine? What's the motive here?
Yeah, that definitely makes you go, doesn't it?
Mm.
Was that the only weird one? I think you mentioned something about French.
Yes, that's right. Someone else flagged a negative review written completely in French.
In French, okay.
Which led to questions like, does Jonesworks even operate much in France? Do they have a big French-speaking clientele? It seemed, well, odd.
Adding to the puzzle.
And adding another layer, the same person mentioned someone claiming they had an inside source for all this negative feedback, so, more intrigue.
Okay, so this is where it starts getting complicated. People are seeing this apparent review bomb, maybe some strange details, and the reactions within this group weren't, uniform, were they?
No, not at all. It was quite a mix. Initially, maybe a little bit of amusement. Someone literally said, thought it would be funny to share.
Okay, look at this weird thing happening.
Exactly. But that seemed to shift pretty fast into more serious thoughts. One person immediately brought up the potential legal side of things.
How so?
They basically said, look, if Jonesworks ends up winning their case connected to Baldoni, these negative reviews could actually increase the damages they're awarded.
Wow, okay, that's a really sharp point. These online actions, maybe done without much thought, could backfire legally.
Precisely. And alongside that legal concern, there was also just plain frustration bubbling up in the discussion.
Yeah. What were people saying?
Just things like, why are they doing this? I just can't. Real exasperation, like this isn't helping anything.
A sense that it's counterproductive.
Exactly. Another person specifically stated these reviews were probably not going to help Baldoni's situation at all.
But then, interestingly, someone else saw it differently. Didn't someone suggest this could actually somehow help the lawsuit against Baldoni?
Yes, that perspective came up too. It shows how confusing these things get, right? The same action, this review bomb, is seen by some as potentially damaging to Baldoni's side via increased damages for Jonesworks, and by others as maybe somehow benefiting the case against him.
It really speaks to the chaos of trying to interpret online actions. And someone brought up trial by TikTok.
They did. That phrase really jumped out. The risk of trial by TikTok.
It's so evocative. It perfectly captures that anxiety, doesn't it? That online mobs or sentiment could somehow influence actual legal outcomes.
It really does. It taps into this wider concern about, due process in the internet age. Can you get a fair hearing when public opinion online is so loud and, frankly, so quickly formed?
Yeah, a huge question. Okay, now let's wade into maybe the most speculative part of this discussion you shared, this Candace Owens connection theory. How did her name even come into this?
Well, it seems to stem directly from that first odd review we mentioned, the one that named her alongside Justin Bieber.
Ah, right. So that mention acted like a spark.
It looks that way. People started wondering, could she actually be involved, maybe encouraging these negative reviews against Jonesworks?
Was there anything else fueling that idea? I thought someone mentioned a shift in her focus.
Correct. One person observed that Owens seems to be talking more about non-political topics lately, which, is a pretty thin observation on its own, but it seemed to add a little bit of fuel to the speculation fire.
Okay, so walk me through the theory itself. It sounded a bit tangled when you first mentioned it. How are they connecting Owens to Jonesworks via Bieber?
Okay. Deep breath. It is convoluted. The theory, as pieced together from the discussion, seems to be that Owens believes Jonesworks is part of some kind of smear campaign against Justin Bieber.
Against Bieber. Okay.
Yeah.
Why would she think Jonesworks is involved?
Here's the chain. Scooter Braun is apparently a part owner of the PR firm Melissa Nathan works for, presumably related to Jonesworks in some way in their minds.
Right.
And Scooter Braun follows someone on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
someone who these online users seem to think is connected to this alleged Bieber smear campaign.
Wait, hang on. So Owens thinks Jonesworks is smearing Bieber because Scooter Braun, who has some connection to a PR person there, follows someone else on Instagram who might possibly be involved in this supposed smear. Is that it?
That appears to be the gist of the connection some people were trying to make, yes.
As you can tell, it's built on quite a few assumptions.
Understatement. Wow. So people in the discussion were skeptical of this, I hope.
Oh, definitely. There was a lot of, wait, what? And disbelief expressed about that particular line of reasoning. Okay, good. And just to be clear on the players here, Scooter Braun, we know he's linked to Hive America, which owns a stake in the agency group, TAG, and Melissa Nathan works in PR. But linking that to Owens orchestrating a review bomb via an Instagram follow.
It seems like a massive leap based on very, very thin threads. It really shows how quickly narratives can spin out online, connecting dots that maybe aren't even there.
And then another layer. Someone pointed out that Justin Baldoni himself is friends with Scooter Braun.
Yes, that piece of information surfaced too.
How did that fit into the picture people were painting?
Well, for some, it made them look again at Baldoni's past request for a Hailey Bieber special. Someone mentioned giving it the side eye.
Ah, suggesting maybe there are other connections or motives at play within those celebrity circles because of that friendship.
Exactly. It just added another element of suspicion, or let's say, perceived complexity for these observers trying to figure things out.
Man, it's like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing and a bunch of extra pieces from other puzzles thrown in. Okay, so moving slightly away from the who did what, the discussion also hit on some bigger themes, didn't it?
Yes, and I thought these were quite insightful. For instance, one person just expressed this real desire for logic and data. They seemed genuinely frustrated by what they saw as the lack of reason behind the review bomb.
Just wanting things to make sense, basically. Which is understandable.
Very. And then someone else brought up the idea of, like, online priorities.
What do you mean?
They pointed out the intense energy focused on Jonesworks and wondered why that same level of energy wasn't always there for other issues they felt were more important, like racist incidents at schools or homophobic clubs.
That's a classic critique of online activism, isn't it? Questioning where the focus lands and why. It's complicated algorithms, personal interests, community dynamics.
For sure. And one more broader point that was really interesting. Someone floated the idea that maybe the pro-Baldoni conspiracy theories were a kind of projection.
Projection? How so? What do you think they meant?
Well, it's a psychological idea, right? That maybe people who are quick to see conspiracies against Baldoni are, perhaps unconsciously, projecting their own potential biases or maybe even their own ways of thinking onto his perceived enemies.
Huh. So attributing manipulative motives to others, because that's maybe how they themselves might think or operate in a similar situation, that's a really thought-provoking way to look at it.
It certainly offers a different lens on why some narratives, even shaky ones, gain traction online, especially when emotions are running high.
So if we try and sort of boil this all down, what are the main takeaways from this particular deep dive into that online conversation?
Well, first we saw this group observing what they firmly believed was a coordinated review bomb against Jonesworks, a company linked to the Baldoni situation.
Right, the core observation.
Second, while they couldn't pinpoint who was behind it, the speculation leaned towards Baldoni supporters, even though most in the discussion thought it was a bad, maybe even harmful move for his case.
Okay. And the Owens theory.
And third, yeah, we saw this really complex and frankly pretty flimsy theory emerge, trying to tie Candace Owens into it all through Bieber, Braun, and an Instagram follow, which really highlights how fast and sometimes how creatively online speculation can work.
Definitely. It's a snapshot of sense-making in action, however speculative.
And stepping back even further, we saw those broader themes surface. The wish for more logic online, questions about where online outrage focuses, and that interesting psychological angle of potential projection behind some conspiracy theories.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it? A specific moment in time, showing how information, misinformation, and just pure guessing get mashed together as people try to understand these really complex public situations.
It absolutely does, and it really drives home how important it is to be critical consumers of online discussions, especially around sensitive things like legal cases. Skepticism is key.
So wrapping this up, it leaves me thinking, see how fast these narratives, these connections, however weak they might be, can form and spread online. What does that really tell us about the challenges we all face, trying to get a clear picture of complex events today?
Mm.
And what's the potential ripple effect of that fast-forming online sentiment on things happening in the real world, like legal cases, public reputations? And maybe the biggest question, what's our responsibility as individuals scrolling through all this, and how we interpret and maybe how we share the stuff we see online? Definitely gives you something to mull over.